I listened to the whole round of people talking about harnesses. You may not have heard the word, but you will probably hear it constantly in the back half of this year. Conclusion, first. Same model, not one line retrained. They just re-engineered everything around it, and the cost dropped to 1/10 while matching the strongest closed models. And then everyone started fighting about it. Some say this is the foundation every future company sits on. Others say it will be worthless within 12 months.
Harness literally means the gear you strap onto a horse so a person can steer it. In AI, it means the entire layer around the model. How you feed it context, how it calls tools, how memory gets stored, how subtasks get dispatched, how you judge whether it did the job.
Right. Think of it this way. The model is the engine. The harness is the car. Start with the number that pulled everyone into this.
NVIDIA official blog, July 8th. LangChain tuned its own deep agents harness for Nemotron 3 Ultra. The result: highest accuracy among open models, higher throughput, inference cost per run 10 times lower than top closed models, and business task parity with the highest scoring closed models.
None of that is the point yet. The point is the line that comes right after it. No model retraining was required. Every gain came from engineering the environment around the model, not the model itself. Read that one twice. What has been our default way of making progress for 2 years? Swap in a bigger model or fine-tune it. Now someone is telling you, leave the model alone, rebuild the car, and you get a 10 times cost gap.
One reminder, NVIDIA and LangChain published this themselves. Vendor reported. LangChain's platform has over 200 million monthly downloads. They are direct beneficiaries of this narrative.
We'll flag that on every chair coming up. All right, the fight starts. First chair, Jensen Huang. His call is blunt. Most future companies will be built on harness engineering, not just on business process. And he has a harder line than that. Core intelligence must never be outsourced. It has to stay inside the company. Unpacked, that means this. Specialized agents have to be built on intelligence that is already good enough. Access to information is the key. Companies have to solve security, trust, governance, and permissions themselves. And he thinks this creates a lot of new jobs, especially in systems engineering.
Disclosure. He sells GPUs and he sells Nemotron, his own open model line. Never outsource core intelligence translates to, come buy my stuff and build it yourself.
Second chair, Logan Kilpatrick, at Google. His call is almost the opposite. Within 12 months, the standalone value of an agent harness will drop sharply. The reasoning is clear too. Model capability will gradually eat the scaffolding. What you painstakingly build outside the model today, the model may just ship with next year. A few of his other calls are worth noting. He says AI is a positive sum game for search. People will search more, not less. Google's strategy has moved from maximizing how long you stay to maximizing your outcome. The whole product category is still crawling. Users are nowhere near ready to fully depend on AI. Generative UI may actually increase cognitive load, and no single super product will do everything. And one I find fairly honest. He says AI coding is approaching superhuman, but it will not replace programmers. Coding agents are the most mature deployed track right now. Model quality elsewhere still isn't there.
He is at Google. He is on the model building side. The model eats the middle layer is the narrative that benefits model vendors most. He also self-reports that AI Studio shipped Android app generation and produced 350,000 apps in 1 week. Treat that as marketing.
At this point, you might think, the guy selling shovels says build it. The guy digging gold says don't. Isn't this just where you sit determines where you stand? Which is why the third chair matters. Lillian Wang. What she gives isn't a middle ground. It is a third answer. She recently wrote a long piece, going through 35 relevant papers. Her core call is this. The AI self-improvement that actually works in the near term probably does not start with a model rewriting its own weights. It starts with harness engineering. In other words, the first step a system takes to improve itself isn't getting smarter. It is making the car around it better.
The 3 design patterns she calls already proven: workflow automation, persistent memory management, and parallel execution of subagents. She stresses one key property. Real self-improvement means learning from failure, not just optimizing the cases that already worked.
And then, her sharpest line. The harness system itself becomes the thing being optimized. Hand-designed heuristics get fewer and fewer. Do you hear the weight of that? Right now, humans tune the harness. What she is saying is that next, the harness tunes itself. And her response to the first 2 chairs catches both of them in one sentence. She says, even when many harness improvements get eventually internalized into the core model, the need to specify goals and context will not disappear. Sit with that. Logan says, the model will eat the scaffolding. She says yes, it will eat part of it. Jensen says companies have to build it themselves. She says yes, and the part that cannot be eaten is exactly the part you build. And the layer she adds is this. That part itself becomes the next thing to be optimized.
She is now a co-founder at Thinky. A News also notes that Greg Brockman has been quietly endorsing agent and harness engineering.
3 chairs down. Now some evidence this isn't just a few people talking to themselves. This summer Latent Space simply called it Meta Harness Summer.
The short history goes roughly like this. First Conductor, then ZZCP, then OpenInspect, Cloudflare's Flu, Vercel's Even Harness Agent, and HeyPy. Databricks CTO Matisse. Zaharia is betting on Omnigent, an open-source pluggable architecture that pulls any coding or knowledge work agent into one standardized, secure, reliable, scalable system.
A News has a line about it I think is exactly right. It says, it is unclear whether Omnigent has the inevitability MCP had, but architecturally, some open-source architecture, shaped like this, will probably win. Because it is currently being independently rediscovered at 1,000 AI-native shops. 1,000 companies, each building the same wheel. That usually means one of 2 things. Either this is a real need, or it is a collective hallucination. Both have happened before. 4th chair, the one I think most deserves to be heard. An engineer building agents for a company right now, or the person who runs that team. For you, this isn't a debate about positions. It is how you write this year's roadmap and budget. If Logan is right, the headcount you spend this year is wasted next year. If Jensen is right, not building this year means no foundation next year. If Lillian is right, what you should build isn't the harness itself. It is the layer that lets the harness iterate on its own. 3 completely different bets. And nobody can hand you a certain answer. So what does this look like historically? 3 different answers. First, actually eaten. Like jQuery. It patched the gaps between browsers. The gaps got closed, and it left the stage. A scaffold disappearing after it finishes the job is a normal ending. Nothing shameful about it. Second, it becomes the bedrock instead. Like compilers. Like operating systems. They were dismissed as temporary middle layers too, and became the floor nobody discusses, and nobody can avoid. Third, the whole thing shifts sideways. Like the ORM wars. A decade of arguing about whether to use an ORM, and the ending wasn't that somebody won. People started storing data in a completely different way, and the question invalidated itself. I'm ruling out none of them. Here is my read. I think arguing about whether harnesses have value is the wrong question. Because that 10 times cost gap is already sitting there, and it is available today. You don't need to give up a gain that holds this year for a prediction about next year. The real question is a different one. Is the layer you're building a one-off? or can it grow on its own? For the one-off kind, Logan is right. The model eats it eventually. The kind that grows on its own is what Lillian means by the next optimization target. So over the next 2 years, I'm watching 3 signals. 1. Whether that no retraining, environment only 10 times gap gets reproduced by a third party. Right now, it is vendor reported. It counts once someone reproduces it. 2. Whether the meta harness layer converges on a standard. 1,000 companies each building their own is the current state. The day something appears that everyone plugs into the way they did with MakeCP. This gets settled. 3. Whether model vendors start shipping these capabilities natively. If Logan's prediction comes true, this is how it comes true. Not that the harness disappeared, but that it got moved inside the model. One line to leave you with. We spent 2 years believing a bigger model solves everything. Now, there is a set of numbers telling you, same model, no retraining, rebuild the car around it, and you save 10 times the money. That doesn't mean the model doesn't matter. It means the cheap progress may not be in the direction you've been staring at. I hear things. I relay them to you. See you next time.